Whoa, part two? I didn't even see part one. Hang on. I'll explain in just a second. So if you're a regular viewer of my show, you're probably asking, Chad, how can you be doing part two of the Asian-inspired nightstand when I haven't even seen you do part one? So let me explain. My good friend Mitch Peacock, he's over there in the United Kingdom, and for about the last year or so, we've been wanting to collaborate together on some kind of project. So we decided to do this nightstand. Now, this was a design that Mitch came up with, and we thought it would be fun to do something different out there. See, our goal is we want to expose our viewers to different craftsmen out there in the woodworking industry. And so this video is going to be a crossover video. What I mean by that is each one of us is going to be doing a different step. So, Mitch has already done part one, and I would encourage you to go over to Mitch's YouTube channel there. Check out the episode. In that, he explains the design. He explains the material and the prepping of the material. He talks about the plans in which you're able to get those plans for free. And one lucky winner could possibly win the table that Mitch is building. So go to Mitch's channel, check it out, subscribe, and follow both of us. So now on my episode here, we're going to be covering the legs to this nightstand. So let me show you those. This nightstand actually has two different legs on it. The rear leg has the simple but graceful curve to it. And the curve is just on one side of the four. While the front leg, it also has that nice curve to it, but it also has this astragal or torus profile here at the top. And the other thing that's different about this front leg is this profile is not on one, but on two of the four sides of this leg. So I'm going to show you how you can accomplish that. Now, these legs also too, they're going to have mortises on it, which will be receiving tenons to it. And I'm going to show you two different ways to cut these mortises out. Now, I'm building my table out of cherry wood, and the first thing I want to do is I need to make a template for the profile of these legs, and I'm going to make that pattern off of the plans that Mitch provided for me. So the leg from the plans, I took this pattern and put it on a scrap piece of wood. Now, there's one of three ways you could get this. One, you could take the actual plans, blow them up to the actual size, cut it out, and lay it on a thin scrap piece of wood to make your template. The other method is you could graph this off and then take your measurements, scale up from there, and graph it off on here, and your measurements would come the same, and it's simply then connect the dots. The method that I did was I took my measurements up here, placed them on the template, and then I took a thin scrap piece of wood, and you can just bend it and then trace that line. And that's going to get me pretty close to what we have here. Now I just got to simply cut this out on the bandsaw and smooth it out, and I'll have my template. So as Mitch showed in the previous video, we had our material cut, planed, and sized. So what I'm doing here is I'm laying out for the legs. So what I like to do is I like to look at the grain pattern and figure out what I want to be the front and sides to be visible. Then what I'll do is I will mark the tops of the legs. In this case, I have the front left, the front right, I have the rear left, and the rear right. Also too, working from the plans, I like to make the notes on where the joinery is going to be. So in this case, this inside of the front leg, this is going to have dowels, and the side is going to have a mortise. So I go through and do all that. Dowels, mortise, we have mortise, mortise, and mortise, and mortise. Okay, now I'm ready to draw my template pattern onto the legs. Let me show you that next. I have the front left leg here, and the front legs have a different shape pattern than the rears. The rear doesn't have this radius curve at the top. So on it, again, I have the dowels marked where it will go, I have the mortise where it will go, and so that leaves the two faces. So what I'm going to do is, here's the mortise, or here's the dowel one. I'm going to lay this pattern on here, and I will trace it out. Okay, now I'm going to turn it to the other face surface, and I have to flip the template. So in other words, I want both this curved detail facing each other. Okay. Once again, working off the plans, I've carefully measured and laid out where the mortise will be. I use my mortise and marking gauge to scribe the lines. And I'm going to show you two different ways to mortise this out. We'll use the mortising machine, and then if you don't have that, we can simply drill it out. But I made a classic rookie mistake. The distance from the top of this mortise to the top of the leg is not very much. So if I drill this mortise, use a chisel, there's a good chance I'm going to break this out. What I should have done was I should have left the piece longer, mortised it, and then cut it to length. But here's how I'm going to prevent that. I made this jig, and what I'll do is when I put this on here, it's the same height and width as my workpiece, and then I'll put a couple of clamps on here. Put one here, one at the bottom. This way now, as I mortise or chisel, I'm getting adequate strength behind or the top of this leg so that won't break out on me. So you can see that the mortising machine is fast, easy, and accurate with just minimal amount of cleanup with a chisel when it's done. Now, I always recommend making the mortises first because you can always fit the tenon to that size later. Now, if you don't have a mortising machine, don't worry because you can just use your drill and a drill bit. Now, to achieve the proper depth, I'll wrap some tape around it. Once the bit gets down to the work surface, this tape will actually sweep away the little wood shavings, and then I know I'm perfect and need to stop drilling at that point. However, by using the drill, you're going to have a little bit more cleanup with the chisels when it's done. So take a look. My mortises are all done, the profile is drawn on the leg blank, and it's time to cut this baby out. Now I'm going to use the bandsaw, and I'm putting on my smallest blade that I have in stock, which is 3/16, because this radius is really tight here. Now to be able to do this cut where I have both profiles, well, check this out. It's pretty slick. The result is you're left with this beautiful two-sided profiled leg. Now I will say that the bandsaw left a lot of saw marks on it, so to clean that up I have an oscillating drum sander, and that cleaned it up pretty fast and pretty quick. However, if you don't have one of those, a simple spoke shave will work just as well. Alright, so the last thing I have to do with these legs is on the inside of each of the legs I have to put this notch mark in it. This notch is going to take a cleat, and that cleat is going to attach and hold the lower shelf carcass. So to make this notch, I'm using my table saw and my table saw sled. I've also attached some stop blocks on it. That is going to be set to determine the width of this notch. Then I'll just slowly nibble out the waste. So that wraps it up for me on part 2 of this Asian-inspired nightstand. For part 3, head over to Mitch's channel, and next time he's going to be working on that lower shelf carcass unit. This is going to be housing a drawer, but the unique thing about this is Mitch designed it with mitered corners. So check it out and see how he gets a good tight-fitting mitered box. All right, as always, thank you so much for watching. Appreciate you tuning into the show. Appreciate the love that you're sending over there to my friend Mitch. And as always, if you have any woodworking questions, feel free to contact me at WoodChoppinTime@gmail.com. I'll be happy to answer all your woodworking questions and help you become a better woodworker. As always, keep on dancing.